everybody. Welcome to ASMR Reality. Tonight, I am going to be reading from this book, Wild at Heart. And we're going to be discussing relationships. Last night was a heavy topic, and even though I gave a graphic warning about the content, it still was upsetting to some people, so I apologize for that. My intent was not to upset anybody. My intention was to help people understand how lucky we are, because so many people have it so much worse. So I thought I would lighten up the topic and go to the exact opposite end of the spectrum, if you will. So let's get started. I am going to be reading from the chapter called A Beauty to Rescue, and I think this is good for both men and women. I know that I have more male subscribers than female subscribers, so I'm talking specifically, mainly to men here, about how to treat women. And this guy is really fascinating. His name is John Eldridge, and he kind of puts things in with a little bit of religious connotation, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. So I think you'll find it interesting, and if you are in the midst of a relationship or wanting to be in one, this could be helpful information for you. Once upon a time, as the story goes, there was a beautiful maiden, an absolute enchantress. She might be the daughter of a king or a common servant girl, but we know she is a princess at heart. She is young, with a youth that seems eternal. Her flowing hair, her deep eyes, her luscious lips, her sculptured figure. She makes the rose blush for shame. The sun is pale compared to her light. Her heart is golden, her love as true as an arrow. But this lovely maiden is unattainable, the prisoner of an evil power who holds her captive in a dark tower. Only a champion may win her. Only the most valiant, daring, and brave warrior has a chance of setting her free. Against all hope he comes. With cunning and raw courage he lays siege to the tower and the sinister one who holds her. Much blood is shed on both sides. 3 times the knight is thrown back, but 3 times he rises again. Eventually the sorcerer is defeated, the dragon falls, the giant is slain, the maiden is his. Through his valor he has won her heart. On horseback they ride off to his cottage by a stream in the woods for a rendezvous that gives passion and romance new meaning. Why is this story so deep in our psyche? Every little girl knows the fable without ever being told. She dreams one day her prince will come. Little boys rehearse their part with wooden swords and cardboard shields, and one day the boy, now a young man, realizes that he wants to be the one to win the beauty. Fairy tales, literature, music, and movies all borrow from this mythic theme. Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, Helen of Troy, Romeo and Juliet, Anthony and Cleopatra, Arthur and Guinevere, Tristan and Isolde. From ancient fables to the latest blockbuster, the theme of a strong man coming to rescue a beautiful woman is universal to human nature. It is written in our hearts, one of the core desires of every man and every woman. I met Stacy in high school, but it wasn't until late in college that our romance began. Up till that point, we were simply friends. When one of us came home for the weekend, we'd give the other a call just to hang out, see a movie, go to a party. Then one summer night, something shifted. I dropped by to see Stacy. She came sauntering down the hall barefoot, wearing a pair of blue jeans and a white blouse with lace around the collar and the top buttons undone. The sun had lightened her hair and darkened her skin, and how is it I never realized she was the beautiful maiden before? We kissed that night, and though I'd kissed a few girls in my time, I had never tasted a kiss like that. Needless to say, I was history. Our friendship had turned to love without my really knowing how or why. Only that I wanted to be with this woman for the rest of my life. As far as Stacy was concerned, I was her knight. Why is it that 10 years later, I wondered if I even wanted to be married to her anymore? Divorce was looking like a pretty decent option for the both of us. So many couples wake one day to find they no longer love each other. Why do most of us get lost somewhere between once upon a time and happily ever after? Most passionate romances seem to end with the evenings in front of the TV. Why does the dream seem so unattainable, fading from view even as we discover it for ourselves? Our culture has grown cynical about the fable. Don Henley says, "We've been poisoned by these fairy tales." There are dozens of books out to refute the myth, books like Beyond Cinderella and The Death of Cinderella. No, we have not been poisoned by fairy tales, and they are not merely myths. Far from it. The truth is, we have not taken them seriously enough. As Roland Hines says, myths are stories which confront us with something transcendent and eternal. In the case of our fair maiden, we have overlooked two very crucial aspects to that myth. On the one hand, none of us ever really believed the sorcerer was real. We thought we could have the maiden without a fight. Honestly, most of us guys thought our biggest battle was asking her out. And second, we have not understood the tower and its relation to her wound. The damsel is in distress. If masculinity has come under assault, femininity has been brutalized. Eve is the crown of creation, remember. She embodies the exquisite beauty and the exotic mystery of God in a way that nothing else in all creation even comes close to. And so she is the special target of the evil one. He turns his most vicious malice against her. If he can destroy her or keep her captive, he can ruin the story. Every woman can tell you about her wound. Some came with violence, others came with neglect. Just as every little boy is asking one question, every little girl is as well. But her question isn't so much about her strength. No, the deep cry of a little girl's heart is, "Am I lovely?" Every woman needs to know that she is exquisite and exotic and chosen. This is core to her identity, the way she bears the image of God. Will you pursue me? Do you delight in me? Will you fight for me? And like every little boy, she has taken a wound as well. The wound strikes right at the core of her heart of beauty and leaves a devastating message with it. No, you're not beautiful, and no one will really fight for you. Like your wound, hers almost always comes at the hand of her father. A little girl looks to her father to know if she is lovely. The power he has to cripple or to bless is just as significant to her as it is to his son. If he's a violent man, he may defile her verbally or sexually. The stories I've heard from women who have been abused would tear your heart out. Janet was molested by her father when she was 3. Around the age of 7, he showed her brothers how to do it. The assault continued until she moved away to college. What is a violated woman to think about her beauty? Am I lovely? The The message is no, you are dirty. Anything attractive about you is dark and evil. The assault continues as she grows up through violent men and passive men. She may be stalked, she may be ignored. Either way, her heart is violated and the message is driven further. You are not desired, you will not be protected, and no one will fight for you. The tower is built brick by brick, and when she's a grown woman, it can be a fortress. If her father is passive, a little girl will suffer a silent abandonment. Stacy remembers playing hide and seek in her house as a girl of 5 or 6. She'd find a perfect place to crawl into, full of excited anticipation of the coming pursuit. Snuggled up in a closet, she would wait for someone to find her. No one ever did, not even after she was missing for an hour. That picture became the defining image of her life. No one noticed, no one pursued. The youngest in her family, Stacy just seemed to get lost in the shuffle. Her dad traveled a lot, and when he was home, he spent most of the time in front of the TV. An older brother and sister were troubled in their teens. Stacy got the message. Just don't be a problem. We've already got too much to handle. So she hid some more, hid her desires, hid her dreams, hid her heart. Sometimes she would pretend to be sick just to get a drop or two of attention. Like so many unloved young women, Stacy turned to boys to try to hear what she never heard from her father. Her high school boyfriend betrayed her on prom night, told her he had been using her, that he really loved someone else. The man she dated in college became verbally abusive. But when a woman never hears she's worth fighting for, she comes to believe that's the sort of treatment she deserves. It's a form of attention in a twisted way. Maybe it's better than nothing. Then we fell in love on that magical summer night, but Stacy married a frightened, driven man who had an affair with his work because he wouldn't risk engaging a woman he sensed he wasn't enough for. I wasn't mean, I wasn't evil, I was nice, and let me tell you, a hesitant man is the last thing in the world a woman needs. She needs a lover and a warrior, not a really nice guy. Her worst fear was realized. I will never really be loved, never really be fought for, and so she hid some more. Years into our marriage, I found myself blindsided by it all. Where is the beauty I once saw? What happened to the woman I fell in love with? I didn't really expect an answer to my question. It was more a shout of rage than a desperate plea. But Jesus answered anyway. She's still in there. She's captive. Are you willing to go after her? I realized that I had, like so many men, married for safety. I married a woman I thought would never challenge me as a man. Stacy adored me. What more did I need to do? I wanted to look like the night, but I didn't want to bleed like one. I was deeply mistaken about the whole arrangement. I didn't know about the tower or the dragon or what my strength was for. The number one problem between men and their women is that we men, when asked to truly fight for her, hesitate. We are still seeking to save ourselves. We have forgotten the deep pleasure of spilling our life for another. There's a poem here called Offering Our Strength. There are 3 things that are too amazing for me, 4 that I do not understand. The way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a maiden. Agur, son of Jacob, is onto something here. There is something mythic in the way a man is with a woman. Our sexuality offers a parable of amazing depth when it comes to being masculine and feminine. The man comes to offer his strength, and the woman invites the man into herself, an act that requires courage and vulnerability and selfishness for both of them. Notice first that if the man will not rise to the occasion, nothing will happen. He must move his strength, must swell before he can enter her. But neither will the love consummate unless the woman opens herself in stunning vulnerability. When both are living as they were meant to live, the man enters his woman and offers her his strength. He spills himself there in her for her. She draws him in, embraces, and envelops him. When all is over, he is spent, but ah, what a sweet death it is. And that is how life is created. The beauty of a woman arouses a man to play the man, the strength of a man, offered tenderly to his woman, allows her to be beautiful. It brings life to her and to many. This is far, far more than sex and orgasm. It is a reality that extends to every aspect of our lives. When a man withholds himself from his woman, he leaves her without the life he can bring, only he can bring. This is never more true than how a man offers or does not offer his words. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. She is made for and craves words from him. I just went upstairs to get a glass of water from the kitchen. Stacy was in there baking Christmas cookies. The place was a mess, to be honest. So was she, covered with flour and wearing a pair of old slippers. But there was something in her eye, something soft and tender, and I said to her, "You look pretty." The tension in her shoulders gave way. Something twinkled in her spirit. She sighed and smiled. "Thank you," she said almost shyly. If the man refuses to offer himself, then his wife will remain empty and barren. A violent man destroys with his words. A silent man starves his wife. She's wilting. A friend confessed to me about his new bride. If she's wilting, then you're withholding something, I said. Actually, it was several things. His words, his touch, but mostly his delight. There are so many other ways this plays out in life. A man who leaves his wife with the children and the bills to go and find another, easier life has denied them his strength. He has sacrificed them when he should have sacrificed his strength for them. What makes Maximus or William Wallace so heroic is simply this: they are willing to die to set others free. This sort of heroism is what we see in the life of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and the stepfather to Jesus. I don't think we fully appreciated what he did for them. Mary, an engaged young woman, almost a girl, turns up pregnant with a pretty wild story. "I'm carrying God's child." The situation is scandalous. What is Joseph to think? What is he to feel? Hurt, confused, betrayed, no doubt. But he's a good man. He will not have her stoned. He will simply divorce her quietly. An angel comes to him in a dream, which shows you what it sometimes takes to get a good man to do the right thing, to convince him that Mary is telling the truth and he is to follow through with the marriage. This is going to cost him. Do you know what he's going to endure if he marries a woman the whole community thinks is an adulteress? He will be shunned by his business associates and most of his clients. He will certainly lose his standing in society and perhaps even his place in the synagogue. To see the pain he's in for, notice the insult that crowds will later use against Jesus. Isn't this Joseph and Mary's son? They They say with a sneer and a judge and a wink. In other words, we know who you are, the bastard child of that slut and her foolish carpenter. Joseph will pay big time for this move. Does he withhold? No. He offers Mary his strength. He steps right between her and all of that mess and takes it on the chin. He spends himself for her. They will be called oaks of righteousness. There, under the shadow of a man's strength, a woman finds rest. The masculine journey takes a man away from the woman so that he might return to her. He goes to find his strength. He returns to offer it. He tears down the walls of the tower that has held her with his words and with his actions. He speaks to her heart's deepest questions in 1,000 ways. Yes, you are lovely. Yes, there is one who will fight for you. But because most men have not yet fought the battle, most women are still in the tower. Most men want the maiden without any sort of cost to themselves. They want all the joys of the beauty without any of the woes of the battle. This is the sinister nature of pornography, enjoying the woman at her expense. Pornography is what happens when a man insists on being energized by a woman. He uses her to get a feeling that he is a man. It is a false strength, as I've said, because it depends on an outside source rather than emanating from deep within his center. And it is the paragon of selfishness. He offers nothing and takes everything. We are warned about this sort of man in the story of Judah, a story that if it weren't in the Bible, you would have thought I drew straight from a television miniseries. Judah is the fourth son born to Jacob. You might remember him as the one who came up with the idea to sell his brother Joseph into slavery. Judah has 3 sons himself. When the eldest becomes a man, Judah finds a wife for him named Tamar. For reasons not fully explained to us, their marriage is short-lived. But Judah's firstborn was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. Judah gives his second son to Tamar, as was the law and custom of that time. It is Onan's responsibility to raise up children in his brother's name, but he refuses to do it. He is a proud and self-centered man who angers the Lord, so he put him to death also. You're beginning to get the idea here. Selfish man, a woman wronged, and the Lord is mad. Judah has 1 son left, Shelah. The boy is the last of his strength, and Judah has no intentions of spending it on Tamar's behalf. He lies to Tamar, telling her to go back home, and when Shelah is old enough, he'll give him to her as her husband. He does not. What follows is hard to believe, especially when you consider that Tamar is a righteous woman. She disguises herself as a prostitute and sits by the road. Judah is known to use. He has sex with her, but is unable to pay. Tamar takes his seal and cord and staff as a pledge. Later, word gets out that Tamar is pregnant. Judah is filled with what he insists is righteous indignation. He demands that she be burned to death, at which point Tamar produces the witness against him. See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are. Judah is nailed. He more than recognizes them. He realizes what he's been doing all along. She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son, Shelah. A sobering story of what happens when men selfishly refuse to spend their strength on behalf of the woman. But the same thing happens in all sorts of other ways. Pretty women endure this abuse all the time. They are pursued, but not really. They are wanted, but only superficially. They learn to offer their bodies, but never ever their souls. Most men, you see, marry for safety. They choose a woman who will make them feel like a man, but never really challenge them to be one. A young man whom I admire is wrestling between the woman he is dating and one he knew but could not capture years ago. Rachel, the woman he is currently dating, is asking a lot of him. Truth be told, he fills in way over his head. Julie, the woman he did not pursue, seems more idyllic. In his imagination, she would be the perfect mate. Life with Rachel is tumultuous. Life with Julie seems calm and tranquil. You want the Bahamas, I said. Rachel is the North Atlantic. Which one requires a true man? In a brilliant twist of plot, God turns our scheme for safety on us, requiring us to play the man. Why don't men offer what they have to their women? Because we know down in our guts that it won't be enough. There is an emptiness to Eve after the fall, and no matter how much you pour into her, she will never be filled. This is where so many men falter. Either they refuse to give what they can, or they keep pouring and pouring into her, and all the while feel like a failure because she is still needing more. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, warns Agur, son of Jacob. 4 things that never say enough: the grave, the barren womb, land, which is never satisfied with water, and fire, which never says enough. The barrenness of Eve you can never hope to fill. She needs God more than she needs you, just as you need him more than you need her. So what do? Offer what you have. I'm afraid it won't work, a client said to me when I suggested he move back towards his wife. She's given up on me coming through for her, he confessed, and that's good. No, it's not, I said. That's awful. He was headed to a family reunion back east, and I suggested he bring his wife with him, make it a vacation for the 2 of them. You need to move toward her. What if that doesn't work, he asked. So many men are asking the same question. Work for what? Validate you as a man. Resurrect her heart in a day. Do you see now that you can't bring your question to Eve? No matter how good a man you are, you can never be enough. If she's the report card on your strength, then you'll ultimately get an F. But that's not why you love her, to get a good grade. You love her because that's what you are made to do. That's what a real man does. Let me see how much more. I got too much to read. Yeah, there's more left, but that's a good stopping point. If you want me to finish that chapter, I can. But I think it is a big part of the problem in our world today. Between the rise of feminism and the attack on masculinity. If I was a religious person, I can see exactly why that would be what the devil would want to do. Attack the family. I heard a saying, or a statistic today, that said by 2030, 50% of women of all ages will not be with a man. And I think this is why people like Elon Musk talk about population decline, because people are just not going to be having kids if we don't have relationships. I am a good example of that. 50 years old, I've never had kids. And and I know that probably part of me, as I read through things like that, I know that my safety, being guarded, having heartbreak in the past, that's what I've done, is I've guarded my heart. And it's so easy to live on your own and take care of yourself. And relationships, I know, are hard, and compromise and all the things that come with them that make life more challenging, but also that bring the beauty and the love and that connection, that you're never going to get if you're alone. So you can't have the beauty without the pain. that's basically the story. And for women, it's life would be much better with a good man, as life would be better for men with good women. So I hope that in time, maybe we reverse the trends that are happening now. Men have to improve, women have to improve, but primarily it's a message to men. It's on us to fix it all. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you on the next one. Good night.